Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy with the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. We're going to get started here with the webinar that I hope will explain a lot of the questions that you all have in regards to processing invoices, submitting grades, and how FTA can work with our program as well. Being you guys are all university people, you are going to go in through the university portal here, and you'll just hit the click to continue to get to your page. Have credentials to log into the system, you will click sign in. You will use the email address and the password that was given to you to access the system. If you're a new university or technical school that needs to be added, you want to hit the green contact button, and that will allow you to fill in your information so that I can contact you when your school has been vetted and add you to the system. Here is a screenshot of what it would look like where you're typing in your username and password. University dashboard. The university dashboard is going to look different for every different level of user within the university. We have university supervisors, we have university MOU, and we have data entry. Each one of those three functions will see something different on their dashboard. That's because they're allowed to do different things within the system. The role icon right here, university supervisor, you can assign other people to work within the system. You'll put in their name, their social, their email address, and give them a password and credentials to get in. And you will also decide whether you want them to have supervisor rights where they can add other users, or only want them working in the system where they can just do data entry. That's strictly up to the university and how they want to handle that. So from here, applications, because that seems to be the big issue that everybody has, is how to submit an application for payment. If you click on the state applications icon, it's going to open up this web page here, and you will see fall, winter, spring, and summer. You'll have 4 buckets that your students are going to fall in. The students were told to select the term in which their class ended. So if the class ended in October, November, December, it was supposed to go into the fall bucket. If it ended in January, February, March, it was supposed to go in the winter bucket, etc. Now, there was some confusion between the schools and the students picking the winter and spring terms. Some of the schools call it winter, but based on our system, it's considered spring because their classes end in April, May, or June. So working to resolve those issues, and I'll explore on that later. Right now, to process an application, you're going to highlight the student's name and applications over here once they're highlighted. Then see this pop-up icon here. It's going to allow you to do one of 2 things. You can either do a partial invoice or a complete invoice. For this demonstration, we're going to go with complete invoice because no grades to enter at this point, since it's the very first one in the system. And this is that this is actually your first invoice, so you're going to be allowed to proceed right to reimbursement calculations. And these options that you're allowed to do, instructions, automatically populates right here. If you were to click on GPA and grades, it would bring just a blank screen because there are no classes to enter grades for. So we are actually going to do reimbursement calculations tab. After calculations tab, it's going to bring up this page here. And you'll see at the very top that it says billable tuition amount, $3,000. That is the amount of money that the student allocated to your university for the academic year. Now, he has split it between fall and a term. Fall is only $1,500. So the minimum amount that you can bill us for tuition during the fall is $1,500. When you come down to here where it says number, when you come number, there are no spaces allowed in that field. So if you're going to put Math 100, it has to be MATH 100. No spaces allowed, or it'll give you an error. Then you'll enter the course name, the credits, and the tuition cost. You need to have additional classes. You click the Add More button, and it'll open up a new blank line for you. Once you entered in all of your classes and the tuition amounts, you will click Calculate Tuition Total. Now down are all the fees. You're going to do basically the same thing. There's a drop-down menu of fees that you can select from. In order for you to bill us for fees, they have to be mandatory condition of enrollment. The biggest one I can tell you that is a no-no is parking fees. It's nice to have a car on campus, but it's not a mandatory condition of enrollment for you to have a car. So those fees are not allowed. So you would select the fee type and then put in the fee amount, and you would adding more until you had all of their fees entered, and then would click Calculate Total Fee. This is showing you how everything's filled in, and you can total tuition. It added these two together and gave you that. Select these and put those in, them over there, and calculate. The next page is going to be where you see the bottom of the page. It continues down, but it wouldn't fit on one screenshot. So the invoice number that you select, it's totally up to the university how you want to do your methodology for invoicing. Just keep in mind that they have to be a unique invoice. It will not allow duplicates in the system. And then you enter in the student ID. That is going to be the student ID that you, the university, have assigned to that student. And you hit Calculate Total Cost. It will add your tuition and your fees together. If you've got no changes, you can hit Submit Invoice. Changes that you wanted to make before you submit invoice, you can back up here and another line, add another class. You can even click Edit, and it will open up these ones here as well that you can make changes to. Edit feature for the fees as well as the courses listed above. It'll let you know that it was successfully submitted to our office. You have submitted your fall invoice, and this is where the grading aspect comes in. You can submit the winter invoice for this one. You have to enter their grades for the previous semester. So what it is, we'll highlight their name. Invoices again. You have partial invoice and complete invoice. The difference between those two functions are that some of the schools, one area of the university to enter in the grades. If you're the person that's going to enter in the grades, you'll be using the partial invoice. And you will go in there and you'll put in the grades for the classes and the cumulative GPA. And that's all you're going to do. It saves that information in there and it down here to partial invoices. And then whoever in your university that is going to be entering in the tuition amounts will go in there and they'll hit complete invoice and they will finalize the payment. For this, assume we're hitting complete invoice. We're going to grades. And this is information that belongs to a student for the fall semester. He took a geometry class and an art history class. So enter in their grades, and it will take A's, A-minuses, 3.0, 4. It'll allow you to enter it in both ways up in that section. And then down here, It is cumulative GPA, entire university cumulative GPA, not just the semester GPA. And then hit submit. Again, it'll successfully submitted their grade. Now it's preparing the invoice for the winter term for this same student. You will do pretty much the exact same thing you did for fall. You'll put the course number in there, leaving no spaces, course name, credit number, the tuition amount, and calculate total tuition. For an example, put in $800 here. You see here he only allocated $750 for the winter term. So if I try to submit that, the system's going to give me an error. To let know that he only has $750 available for that term. And it allows you to go back in there and adjust that amount. Now you see that it's been corrected. It says $750. We enter the activity fee. Enter the student ID, calculate total cost, and now we're going to submit the invoice. Again, knew that it went through successfully, so you know that it is received on our end. Student in your queue for some reason that are longer enrolled. They either had it paid 100% through FTA or just dropped all their classes. To get them out of your queue, what you're going to want to do is highlight their name and hit process application. And entering an actual course name, course number, and an amount, you'll just put NA in there and bill us like a $0 tuition. Same thing for fees. Just select a fee, but put 0 for the dollars, and you'll submit a 0 invoice, and that will remove them from your queue. The one, he took world history in the winter, so to submit his spring invoice, we have to put grades in there. If you don't click on this to enter the grade and go to the next screen, you'll see it's grayed out. It will not allow you to enter a new invoice. Block it until you actually go in here and enter a grade for world history and the cumulative GPA. It will not allow you to proceed. And then you can also see the invoices icon. That tells you all the invoices that you have submitted to me. If you click on the Invoices tab, it'll give you a drop-down menu of everybody that's in there. If you highlight one of those names and click Invoice Breakdown, you'll see the invoice as it is submitted to us. Either just keep them stored in there and look at them online, or you can go up there and print invoice for your records or the student's file. Now, this is icon. If for some reason you submit an invoice to me and we find an error in it, we will take it back to you. It'll have a note in there explaining to you why we returned it to you. Or if you call me and say, hey, I know I made a mistake, can you please return that invoice to me? Where those invoices will show up is right here in the rejected invoices box. And I can see they're listed in there, and then if you click on Invoice Breakdown, it'll bring up the invoice page and then the justification reason why it was sent back to you. If you want who all has been assigned to work in the MingStep system for your university, you'll click this icon right here, Officials, and give you a list of everybody that has been assigned into the system. It'll tell you what their role is in the system. As I stated before, their role in the system determines what they see on the university dashboard. If there's you don't want in there, please contact me. I can have them deleted or deactivated if you want them turned off for a little while. But those are the people that have been assigned to your university that are working in the system. One of the other from the universities is that it's a FERPA violation to put the students' information into this program. When they sign up to use the MingStep program, have a set of terms and conditions that they are required to read, sign, and approve, and they are not authorized to use the system or to receive funds through the system unless they have done that. And I have right here one of the terms and conditions of the program. So it just says that understand that they're authorizing that the school can release academic information to us, the state of Michigan. And it is in effect until they are no longer participating in the MingStep program. And now the Q&A. So I forgot to mention to you all to put your questions in the Q&A that you may or may not have, and we will go through answering all those for you. Okay, so the first question was, is this going to be recorded to view later? And the answer to that is yes. We are actually going to cut and paste all the questions that are in here that we're going through, and I will type out the answer to those as well, and they will be available with the PowerPoint. Are not applied to the $1,500, correct? Yes, we have $1,500 that they've designated for their tuition. Current fees are in addition to that. So if they have $1,500 designated toward tuition, but their fees are an additional $500, you will invoice us for $2,000. How does school cancel or correct an invoice once it has been submitted? If you realize that you've made a mistake on an invoice, the best thing to do is to email me directly with an exclamation point on there so that I know it is invoice related, that I need to stop it before it gets sent out for payment. Once it has been sent out for payment, it'd be a little trickier to fix. We had people that processed invoices prior to the add drop date, so therefore we overpaid them because the students dropped classes and they were given a refund. So the schools have to send a check back to the state of Michigan for that overpayment. Okay, I'm entering the fall semester 2016 grade now. What happens when it indicates a student is on probation? This student has requested funding for the following semester. Can I invoice? Yes, you can invoice. The students are allowed 2 consecutive terms where the GPA falls below a 2.0. The very first term that it falls below a 2.0, they are put on probation, but we will still pay that invoice. The second term where it falls below a 2.0, they are in academic suspension, but we are still going to pay that invoice there, but no further invoices after that one. They are allowed 2 strikes and then they're out. Can the invoice exceed the billable tuition amount? The way the invoice can exceed the billable tuition amount is it's by fees. Those are in addition to the $6,000 in an academic year, and then if they bring $6,000 down between $3,000 for the fall and $3,000 for the spring, tuition has to strictly be $3,000, but it can go above that if it's to cover the fees that are allowable. What happens when the funds arrive at the university? It takes 4 weeks to payment once you submit your invoice to us for turnaround time. So you can expect payment 30 days after you submit the invoice. How to return funds for students that were determined to have FTA? You would just cut a check payable to the state of Michigan, that amount. You would mail it to our office. I can put the address in the answer when I type it out later. Just make sure that you give me enough information on that check to know exactly which student it was for, which semester it was for, and what caused the overpayment. With submission dates for the invoices, it would be helpful to know when an invoice was submitted. Currently, there is no way for you to see that. We are making changes that will be effective for the 2017-2018 academic year that will allow you to have that visibility. Deadline on students filling out their application. Right now, we do not have a deadline on our end. The law states that they are allowed to apply for that current year as long as there is funding. Therefore, you will probably still see students coming in asking for funding for fall 16. For academic year 2017-2018, they are going to be required to have their application in no later than 14 days after the start of class. Paying to be received via EFT. All the colleges have provided me with their federal tax ID, which is then processed through our state payment system with their banking information, their routing information, and it'll just go electronic funds transfer from our account to yours. That's the reason to be very specific in your invoice numbers, because that is what will be reflected on the EFT payment when it comes back into you. Will change in how MNGSTAP handles flight fees. There will be changes coming on how flight fees are going to be handled. We don't have a concrete answer on that yet. We are having a meeting on Monday with General Stone and his advisory panel to make decisions on that. Could you clarify how MNGSTAP funds affect a student's eligibility for other veterans benefits or vice versa? The MNGSTAP program is very flexible. We don't care if we're first payer, we don't care if we're last payer. We know like FTA and GI Bill, Check 30 benefits, some of those require to be last dollar in. So you can use ours in conjunction with those other benefits as long as they are not receiving more than 100% of the cost of tuition. Let's have Pell Grants, they have post 9/11 GI Bill, they have MNGSTAP, and they have some outside scholarship that's non-tuition specific. You can use all of our funds in combination with those other financial aid package. The ones that are non-tuition specific, if you have more aid than they need, but they have non-tuition specific aid, like Pell Grants, those can be refunded to them. Ours just cannot be refunded to them. But if they have other aid that takes them over that threshold in non-tuition specific, they are allowed to have that back. Fees be invoiced. Any can be invoiced as long as they are a condition of enrollment, a mandatory condition of enrollment. How to locate fall 16 or spring 17 money that hasn't been received by our institution yet? If you're looking for specific invoices, please contact Matt Shoemaker or I. This is Kathy Enderly, and we can do some search for you to let you know where those invoices are at in the process. To use FTA before MingStep or MingStep first and reduce FTA. You want to follow the rules of FTA, Post-7 GI Bill, Pell Grants. We don't really care, like I said, if we're first payer or last payer. We just use so that it's most beneficial for the student with their aid that they already have received. We know who to invoice first if the student has multiple military benefits. Most of the military benefits specifically state their pecking order, where they want to be in that pecking order. We don't care. So to be able to say who to first, I can't really give you an answer on that. It just depends on what aid they're using and how that aid is to be applied. We can first, we can be last as far as MingStep goes, though. $600 limit per credit for all participants. Yes, the maximum amount you can bill us per credit. To the remaining funds if we don't access all that is designated. If a student allocated $3,000 for the fall and his actual tuition was only $2,700, there is a release of funds icon on the university dashboard, and it will, the $3,000 that they originally allocated, the $2,700 that they spent, tell them that they still have $300 that needs to be allocated somewhere. And just yesterday, I finished sending out all those emails to the students to let them know that they had unused funds if they didn't use the full $3,000 that they allocated. The fees still count toward the $6,000 annual limit, correct? No, that is not correct. Fees do not count against the $6,000 limit. The $6,000 limit is strictly tuition. If you had fees that were $1,800, you would then be invoicing us over that academic year for $7,800. If it withdraws and only receives a 50% refund, can we invoice Ming staff for the 50% not refunded? Yes, you can. However, if you ask after that last add drop date, that way we're not going to have to return funds to you. So if you know after the add drop date that they've dropped those classes, then you would only bill us for that 50% portion that actually needs to be paid. Limit to the fee amount. We have some programs that have substantial fees. For example, the Criminal Justice Academy, the Culinary. Currently, there is no limit. As long as they are a mandatory condition of enrollment, there is no limit on what you're allowed to send us for fees. Was required / told to complete this information and send it to the schools. They will get an email blast on June 1 telling them that the system is now open for enrollment for the academic year 2017-2018. They will also be instructed that it's open. They have from that date until 14 days after the start date of class to complete their application. Probation 2 consecutive semesters or 2 semesters at any point that fall below 2.0. It is 2 consecutive semesters. If their semester is a 1.9 and then their spring semester they go back up to a 2.5, and then in the summer semester they go back down to 1.9, that begins it all over again. It doesn't have to be 2 in the entire time period. It's 2 consecutive billing periods. How invoicing for students who are submitting applications beyond 14 days after the start date of class. For the 2016-2017 academic year, we are processing them as if they were turned in a timely fashion. They will be advised that 2017-2018 that will change. limit to the amount of fees that can be invoiced. Example, aviation student with $2,000 in tuition, flight fees could exceed $10,000, student authorized $6,000. If the $2,000, the student would still have $4,000 left in tuition, and the flight fee of $10,000 would be over and above that. But do expect changes coming for flight fees. The AY 1718 is class start date plus 14 days. Is that 14 calendar days, business days, or class days? I have an advisory panel that I'm working with. To me, that 14 days is here nor there. It's whatever makes it easiest for you, the university's billing them. So if you have a preference on how we start counting that 14 days, I'd love some feedback on whether you want it to be the calendar days, business days, or class days. Let me know what you would like that to be. School gets set up in order to invoice for eligible students. We currently do not have a signed MOU. Who do we contact? Very first screen, program, hopefully on the screen. You would want to contact us button, and that would bring a drop-down menu of information that's required for me to get you signed up into the system. Webinar in the future to show us what the student process is like. Absolutely. We actually plan to try to have a webinar quarterly. If there's other information that you would like to see presented in the webinars, please feel free to let me know. Provided with a point of contact at their college or university, they can contact with questions. Do not have that information available for them. If you mind having your personal email and phone number passed on to the students, it's already in our database. We can make that available to them. So again, some feedback. Some people may think it's a great idea. Some people may not want their information available. So let me know what the consensus is on that. Student who is using GarmyEd, MingStep, and 50% GI Bill. We're told that we should use his MingStep first, GarmyEd second, and then certify through the VA the last part that's left to get his 50%. Is this correct? Yes, that is my understanding of the way those three benefits would work in conjunction with each other. if they have submitted an application after 14 days after the start date of the class, can still invoice MingStat for that student if there is no financial need. When you say there's no financial need, I want to back up and make sure that if there were Pell Grants that could be refunded to them, or they paid some of it out of their pocket, you can the MingStat funds, replace the parent, their personal funds, and refund those to the student. So just because their account shows paid in full, some of the money, if you use ours, would be able to be returned to that student for other costs of attendance. Say that if a student allocated $3,000, used $2,700, leaving a balance of $300, how/what can the student use the $300, or is it returned to the student? No money from our program is ever returned to the student. It is either used to cover a cost of their tuition, or they use the funding. Forward to a future semester in that academic year, as long as there's still time left within there to use it. Otherwise, just because they're allotted $6,000 for the academic year does not necessarily mean that they'll have the ability to use all of it. If they don't, the remainder cannot be sent back to them. Okay, we are running out of time here for the webinar, so I will cut and paste all the questions that are in there, read all the answers, and make them part of the presentation that will be available on our website, and that can also be emailed to all of you as well. Thank you for attending, and I look forward to talking to you all next quarter.